Hey guys, it's April from A Little Creative, and I wanted to go through what I did to set up my new Robax palette. Some of us are taking a wonderful class from Danielle Donaldson called A Color Narrative, and it's been awesome. But one of the things that she uses is this Robax palette. And so several of us got excited to purchase one and try it out. So I wanted to kind of give an overview of what I purchased and what I did so that I could keep track of all the colors. So if you look, this is the Robax palette. I bought it with the turntable, which is really wonderful. This is the lid, which also acts as a mixing palette. And if you take it off, you can see all of the beautiful colors. I tend to use Daniel Smith paints, and so that is what I used for this. I arranged my paints in the same order that the Daniel Smith brochure uses for their paints. So this was the Daniel Smith color sheet, and what I did was I put all of the colors into a spreadsheet like so, and then I labeled where the pans go, and I used this order. What I did for this was I just took this piece of paper and I covered it in packing tape and then ran it through a sticker maker to make it adhesive. This way, when I spray it to activate the colors with water, the labels are somewhat protected. Then I use these same labels to label my color chart. If you go to the Robax website, you can see a printout that you can print onto watercolor paper. For my printer, there is a feature where you can insert one sheet at a time, and that's what I did to make this before coloring it in, and then I laminated it. I will say that I have a laser printer and it didn't work super well with the black. I think perhaps an inkjet might be better, but I used what I had. I also wanted to mention that as I was making this color chart, I got the colors out of order, and I don't know if you can see it, but these two colors are raised slightly, and that was because I had another printout on watercolor paper, and I just glued that on to fix the mistake, and it worked really well. There have been some questions about what pans will fit into the Robax palette, and I just wanted to share what worked for me. Your mileage may vary. The pans that I use, I have that worked well came from Daniel Smith. They're these pans. They came from Daniel Smith. I've also purchased the same type of pan from Jackson's Art Supplies in UK, as well as Jerry's Artorama. If you look, you can see that it has a thin lip here, and that makes it fit pretty nicely. The pans that I tried that did not work were the Schminke pans that Dick Blick sells, and that also come from Schminke directly if you buy their half pans. This is a thicker edge, and it's rigid, so it doesn't give very much. This Robax plastic is actually, it gives a little bit. So even if you think it doesn't fit, if you use a little bit of pressure, you might be surprised. The other pan that did not work was Cheap Joe's translucent pans. They do give some, but they're really more of a square shape. than a rectangle, and I just could not get those in. I have seen Susie Blue, which is featured on the Robax palette website. She had mentioned something about filing the edges down of the pans that did not fit. I did try this with one of my Schminke pans, and it did indeed fit. I just was too lazy to try to make that happen. So what I did was I just transferred any paints that I had that were in a Schminke pan into one that was in the Daniel Smith pan. I wanted to go through what it looks and sounds like to put a pan in the Robax palette, because I think I was surprised when I first attempted this. So initially when I got it, I just was going to try to have it kind of flush with the edges. And that's great. That works really well. It may even be preferable if that's what you like, because you're not digging as deeply down. But if you look, you can actually pop it in all the way, and it does indeed fit. The other thing, to get it out is very challenging because it really is pressured in there. So I just use a little tool sometimes, or put pressure on one end or the other to see if it will pop out. I also purchased the additional palette that will hold another, I believe it's 41 pans. It may be 42. I don't recall. But there was some question about whether or not the pans will fit in this smaller palette. And Robax says that they are actually the same size as the Robax palette, the wells are. And I was able to, with some pressure, get that to fit down in. Robax was also kind enough to send a sample of one of their pans that they use, and they are tight as well. So if you're thinking that perhaps the Robax palette will be a looser fit, they really are not. For me, I already had the half pans, and I like the idea of being able to take these out and put them into a metal pan if I want to take certain ones to travel with. So that's why I went that route. The nice thing about this one is that it can be a travel palette if you like, because it comes with a lid that also, again, doubles as a, it's a little difficult to get off, but it will double as a palette as well. One of the things Danielle mentioned, which I thought was pretty revolutionary for me, was the need for a limited palette. I thought it was really interesting that somebody with a palette of 85 colors could also manage to make a limited palette. I had never heard of this before and thought it was a wonderful idea, and something that would sort of marry my desire for lots and lots of colors with my desire for a balanced and harmonious painting that comes from using only 5 or 6 colors. What she used were small binder clips that would fit into this little gap in the wells. I could not find any binder clips. They're like super mini binder clips. I couldn't find any that would fit, but I did find some micro clothespins. And so what I thought I would do, I also have hang on a second. I usually try to keep my strips of watercolor paper that I don't use hanging near my desk, so that I'm able to check for colors, do a color swatch, whatever. So let's say I want to use cobalt turquoise, and I want to check it. This hasn't really been activated, but we'll see what we can do. And so I put a little swatch on the watercolor paper. And then I can take that, clip it onto the clothespin, and then put that clothespin in that well with the sample. And what that does is it enables me to see that, yes, indeed, this is a pan that I'm using for this painting, and also gives me a visual of what that's going to look like swatched out. So I thought that was an excellent idea that Danielle had, and necessity, because I could not find the binder clips, made me adapt it to, in this way. And these little micro clothespins I found at Walmart, and they work perfectly fine. I think that's all that I have for this video. I just wanted to do a quick overview of what I did to get it ready. I also have the spreadsheet of all the Daniel Smith paints, so if anybody would like a copy of that, just send me, make a comment down below, and I'd be happy to send it to you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.